The ACT opposition says it's open to changing school zones in Canberra so that they're not enforced in the middle of the day. Education spokesman Elizabeth Lee has moved a motion calling on the government to improve road safety around schools, including installing flashing lights at some at-risk crossings. She's here now. Good morning. What's the basis for this call?
Oh, good morning, and thank you for having me on. The Canberra Liberals are obviously committed to ensuring that our children are safe getting to and from schools, and that every parent should have the peace of mind when they are having their children going to school, whether it's by walking, by bike, or by bus. We want to make sure that every option is on the table when it comes to safety of our children going to and from school, and we know that there is staggering evidence to say that flashing lights have proven effective in slowing drivers down, reminding them that it is a school zone and that there are vulnerable road users in our children out and about. And we think that it's a no-brainer, really.
So this flashing lights is the one component, and are you calling to tether that to 2-hour windows at drop-off and pick-up time?
We are open to discussing this, and I've been actually talking to a lot of the members of the community about that proposal. And as you can imagine, the vast majority of feedback has been that people would be open to going to a consistent approach to New South Wales. But of course, I understand that there are some concerns that can be raised. One of the feedback that we've had is that our schools do have quite safe zones in terms of, gates and what have you, and fencing around, and that most children wouldn't be travelling by foot by themselves in the hours that are not drop off and pick up. So every option should be considered, and we would love to hear the community feedback on what they think.
You said that there are some, that you've heard about some challenges to this idea. What are those?
Oh, just some, people who have been saying, hey, but what about, there's children who may be going, venturing out on their own, within the hours that are not the pick up and drop off. But the anecdotal evidence is that that is very, very rare. If children are outside of the school grounds during those hours, they're either usually accompanied by teachers or parents.
Is there a risk that this makes drivers less actively considerate in those areas at those times?
I don't think so. I mean, the research that we have seen, and a lot of it obviously comes from New South Wales, because in New South Wales, every school has flashing lights. The flashing lights do act as a very good deterrent for drivers just forgetting where they are and slowing down at the school zones. And because they've got those flashing lights to remind them, it does change driver behaviour.
Spokesperson for Education for the Canberra Liberals, Elizabeth Lee, with us on Breakfast. Adam Shirley and Dan Borscher, 2 at 21 minutes to 9. Is this a good idea? Should at least be considered that 40-kilometre speed zones in school areas should be for just windows of peak periods and not through 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. inclusive? Anthony is a former driving instructor and has some thoughts on this. Anthony, what are your thoughts?
Good morning, gents. How are you going?
We're well, thank you.
Yeah, that's great. I just want to clarify that first of all. I used to teach people to drive within the company I work for. I used to teach new starters to drive trucks, and I did that for quite a few years. But I wasn't a professional driving instructor. I was an in-house driving instructor. But I've got a 40-year career as a professional driver, driving many things. Trucks. I've had my own trucking business. I have driven buses and done an enormous amount of driving over the years.
So on the school zones and the times currently and what maybe is proposed to reduce them to?
I feel that just from personal experience, that the ACT school zones are one of the best systems around. I think the introduction of the flashing lights that New South Wales have implemented is a great idea, and it does certainly change behaviours. And if that was introduced in ACT, I think that would help. I'm not a great fan, though, of the idea of reducing the time from all day down to just the peak periods, because schools are active zones all day long. And quite obviously they do have peak periods where most of the kids are around at those early hours in the morning and early hours, the hours in the afternoon, but people come and go all day long.
And children are coming and going for a variety of reasons, I suppose, you could observe.
Absolutely. But it's also the other thing, I think, as a driver, I think if you're approaching around the fringes of those limited hours, and you're not entirely aware exactly what time it is, and so you're not sure what speed you need to be doing, there's that chance of that little distraction when you're checking the time, checking your watch or the clock on the dashboard, and it only takes a split second for accidents to happen.
It's an interesting point, Anthony. Thank you for bringing those forward on 1300 681 666. Elizabeth Lee, regarding people that still speed through school zones, and you see it, if you reduce the times of 40 kilometres an hour, is that encouraging people to not actually follow the speed limit?
Not at all. At the end of the day, those all the proposals that we have suggested in terms of the flashing lights and having the extended crossing supervisor program and any other safety measures that need to be implemented in schools is literally to ensure safety of our children crossing roads. And what we know is that the evidence shows that those flashing lights have proven effective in slowing drivers down.
Okay.
That's the evidence out there, and I just think that for the government to not even have considered at this point is doing the Canberra community a disservice.
What are the other benefits potentially to reducing the 40 kilometre an hour speed zone in your eyes across those school areas?
Sorry, what do you mean by reducing it down to below 40?
The times at which they are 40 kilometres an hour. So rather than having an 8 till 4 period, reducing that time period to peak periods.
So one of the, I suppose, some of the feedback that we have received from people who have been commenting and giving me feedback on this is, number one, that it will be consistent with New South Wales, and we do have to be realistic that we are an island within New South Wales, and we do have parents who work across the border or send their schools across the border, send their students to schools across the border. The other aspect is that the drivers who are driving through those areas, if they get the reminder, then they do slow down. There is no doubt about that. That's the proven evidence. But, the danger, of course, is if we bring the flashing lights in and it's going all day long, will drivers start to get desensitized? And we don't know, because obviously there's been no other jurisdiction that has had an all-day 8 to 4 and has had flashing lights.
What sort of cost are we looking at if we install those flashing lights across the school network here?
So it would be premature for us to put a cost cap on this at this point, because we know that every school has different needs and has different requirements for safety measurements. But in the lead up to the 2016 election, the Canberra Liberals did promise flashing lights and did get some costings done then. We will need to make sure that we get that updated before we go out and consult with all the schools about what their safety needs are before we actually start putting figure and dollar figures on it.
And Elizabeth Lee, at what point would you like to see change on this? This is quite a big proposal you're putting forward. Realistically, when might it happen, presuming that the Labor Party and the Greens are interested?
Yeah, so I mean the motion that I actually moved in the Assembly yesterday, unfortunately, was defeated, as we're used to that by now. So we're used to getting that defeated. So what the government has said is they're going to come back at the end of the whole year to explain whether the crossing supervisor program was effective or not. We think that that is a bit too long to wait, and we want to make sure that they take into consideration the evidence that is out there that proves that this technology works. And what we had sought in the motion yesterday was a commitment to that by May, and that was rejected.
Righto. Elizabeth Lee, we'll see what the school community, principals, students and their families say about it. Most importantly, thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Elizabeth
Cheers.
Lee is the spokesperson for the opposition on education, talking school zones and a reduction in the time application of that 40 kilometre an hour speed limit down, rather than 8 till 4 through the day, just in the peak 2 hours at drop-off and the peak 2 hours at pick-up, as is the case in New South Wales.
And with the flashing lights there, so that it's abundantly clear that that's in place at that time. Well, what do you think? You can text us on 0467 922 666 or call on 1300 681 666. Got this text in. I have school kids. I think having flashing lights and 40 kilometre per hour speed zones during peak morning and afternoon times is more sensible. That's what happens in New South Wales, in Queensland, and it appears to be working well.
Jeff on 1300 681 666. Jeff, should these rules be changed and the times changed as well?
I think that the rules should definitely be changed. As that lady said, we're an island in the middle of New South Wales, and instead of trying to reinvent something like the ACT normally does, why not just adopt the New South Wales system? Have the school hours for the flashing lights from 8 till 9:30 in the morning, and then 2:30 till 4 in the afternoon. It just makes a lot of common sense.
Aside from slowing cars down through most of the day, is there any evidence to your eye that the system currently isn't working?
Yes. You see so many, well, I don't physically see it, but I have from friends and other tradies around the place that, when you're travelling in and out of New South Wales, trying to remember what time is it and where do I put my brakes on and how do I slow down, and, oh, no, I've been pinged again and I've got another ticket, I think that people get blasé about an all-day school zone.
Right. Fair enough, Jeff.
So, yeah, I agree with the idea of the shortened school zones, and the flashing lights are definitely a go.
Some say then, Dan, that could really focus minds and adhere to the speed limit if they were those dedicated times and the flashing lights. 1300 681 666. That's the view of Jeff at 13 minutes to 9.
This is the other side of that view, really, Adam. Are we so time poor that we cannot slow down around schools? I believe there are people calling for lower speed limits in all urban areas, save lives and insurance claims. So a very practical, pragmatic view there.
John on 1300 681 666. Do you watch the clock to figure out what time the school zone might be operational or not?
That's what I've found is the fact that if you're driving through the middle of the day, and this is when people are doing deliveries and things like that, you're checking your clock to see if it's 2:30 yet, and you're taking your mind off the road. Whereas if it's all day, you kind of go, well, that's the speed limit through here. So you slow down. You're not actually worried too much about what time it is. Whereas if you look at the shortened days, you're more likely, or I find I'm more likely to actually be checking the clock to see, okay, it's not 2:30 yet. I can go through here at 60.
So is that a good or a bad thing, John?
I think the shortened hours is a bad thing, but I think the flashing lights would actually be a good thing.
Yeah, okay. Appreciate your view on 1300 681 666. This one unsigned on a text. No, sorry, it's from Ellie. Adam, firstly, we are not New South Wales. We are the ACT. Secondly, it would be drivers who want to reduce the times, not the parents of children who attend the schools. Dan, there seems to be a division. In terms of the times particularly, it looks like people are in agreement. Flashing lights, attracting our attention is a good thing, but that time of operation for a 40-kilometre speed
that appears to be where the real divide is, and there are other parents who say yes, that they want that to happen. So there's a real line in the sand on that one. This one from David: could someone please explain why the ACT government have 40-kilometre-per-hour speed limits in college zones? Young adults at 18 years of age surely don't need to be wrapped up in cotton wool. 40 kilometres per hour in those zones, in my view, is ridiculous, says David.
It's an interesting point. Lake Ginninderra, for example, which is a year 11 and 12 college, I mean, that is adjacent to two pretty major roads, buses, cars, a lot of the time going through there. I'm not sure it's wrapping children in cotton wool and young adults in cotton wool if there's that volume of traffic through a town centre effectively.
This one from Jenny in Canberra: I think it's a good idea to have flashing lights and limited school crossings similar to New South Wales. And I guess in that point is about harmonising the way that things work in the different jurisdictions.
And Dan, speaking of New South Wales, Linda has lived there in the past and has thoughts on this. Good morning, Linda. What are those thoughts?
Good morning. I think it'd be a very good idea to reduce it. I mean, I've only been in Sydney, Canberra, short period of time. And my question is, why do we have to have it all day? Do the children leave school and meander around at all hours of the day? I think the flashing lights, and I mean, having lived all my life in Sydney, you're not looking at your watch all the time. It's just an automatic thing. You go, come 2:30, slow down. Come 4:30, you can speed up again. 8 o'clock in the morning, slow down. After 9:30, you can go again. It just seems a little incongruous to me, and I'm not quite sure why.
Stepping back, Linda, is there an argument to say that generally around a school zone is a vulnerable area any time of day when it's term time? And is there an argument to slow cars down generally because people might be coming and going from excursions or medical appointments, or teachers and parents are coming and going as well?
Well, are they? during the day? I mean, I can understand, someone's got to go to a medical appointment, yes, but I would think if they need to be taken across the road, I would assume to a medical appointment, the parents would be with them.
Yeah, sure.
And if they're 16, 17, 18, they're certainly old enough to know how to cross a road. I don't think it should be taken away from, I forget the name of the school that was just mentioned, where they're only their last 2 years of their schooling.
Oh, yes.
I think keep it there because kids do, as we know, natter about the exam, do this, do that.
Yeah, exactly.
And don't necessarily pay attention.
And sometimes there's parks and skate parks adjacent, so they're looking to go and have some fun, and the adrenaline gets pumped up, and they're going to run and move unpredictably, I guess.
Exactly, but I think it just seems strange, and I know the first thing I would say to anybody who's coming to visit me from Sydney, now be really careful. Because school zones are all day and they'll look at me and go, why? And I'm like, I don't know, but it's Canberra.
Righto, Linda. Nice to have you in the ACT. Hope you enjoy your time here.
Thank you, I am very much.
Bye.
Thank you.
1300 681 666 if you want to add your view.
Adam, I know this one's going to fire up debate. Government currently using all-day school zones as a money raiser, says this unsigned text. Speed van near Belconnen Way, often around 11 a.m. Well, what do you think about that? Is this revenue raising?
The revenue raising discussion. Okay.
Pops up from time to time.
It does. We have a lot of different laws compared to New South Wales. That is a silly argument if people are saying that we should get in vogue with New South Wales. An interesting point to raise as well. Many Canberra school sports fields aren't fenced. P&C's campaign for the school zone times. Interesting point with some of the open plan and open fence school zones, Dan, through Monday to Friday, and the way those ovals are used.
And lots of text messages coming through, as we'd expected, about the revenue aspect of whether this is about revenue raising. With one text here that says, go ahead and do it as long as it's not about revenue raising. So certainly lots of strong views. Do keep them coming.